Forever 21 is filing for bankruptcy again, and this time it will be for good to go out of business. And they are blaming it on cheap Chinese products and cheap Chinese shipping that this country, the United States, allows them to get away with. Yeah, welcome back into the channel, Rockstars, and that's right, Forever 21, a very popular mall brand way back in the day, 20 years ago. Who knows when they were at their peak, but definitely when I was college, high school time, it was definitely up there on the peak of the chain, and a little after that. Bankruptcy, their second time. We covered it the first time, and this one is for real. They are not going to recover from this. Even their CEO and their executives, their chief financial officer says there is no way forward for Forever 21, and they are blaming it primarily on the law called de minimis from 1930. If you don't know what de minimis is, it gives foreign countries the ability to ship items into our country under $800 per person per day without paying tariffs and without paying extra fees that other US companies like Forever 21 would have to pay to import all of their goods into this country if they had them manufactured in China or India or anywhere else. And so the Chinese are using this loophole. They use it all the time. For example, if you buy a product off of eBay, even if it says it's a US location and they're sending it through their California or Hong Kong warehouses, bringing it into California, they don't have to pay it unless the item is over $800. Also, that rule is $800 per person per day. So what the Chinese companies can also do is if they want to send a huge order over to the US to have prepared, they will say, okay, we have $80,000 in goods and we want to send it over the course of a week, over 5 days. That's $16,000 per day we want to send. At 800, we just need 20 people. Each person is a different person signing for it. Bang, 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 bang. None of those products have to be tax, tariffed, import feed, or even described with paperwork. They get to bypass all of that. So they fully take advantage of that. And if you're buying a $20 dress and it's shipping in from Temu or Shein, we all know what that is, they're not going to make you pay tariffs, not make you pay tax, import fees on those $20 dresses. But if you bought that from a company that's based here in the US and they had to import it, you would, because we all know none of it's made in America, it's made overseas, and you're still gonna pay that fee, so Temu and Shein can go cheaper, and those companies cannot, and that's why they're losing the economic race on that side of things. This goes along with the Chinese e-packets. I told you guys about this. They ship it in bulk, and they get to ship a cell phone case or a cell phone charger to me for 50 cents, when if I ship it to you in the next city over, it's $4.50. There are a whole lot of rules, and this rule de minimis was made back in the 1930s. It's been increased since then, but it's 800 limit right now. If they ship an item between 800 and 2,500, there are limited fees and paperwork, which is still paying for them. If it's over 2,500, then it's normal. But the Chinese take advantage of every loophole they possibly can, and that's why they're beating us in a lot of categories, and that's why we've got to stop. If we want to make it better for us, we've got to stop these loopholes for the Chinese to be able to do what they are doing. This isn't a Republican or a Democratic or a political talk or discussion or plan or thought process. This is purely 100% America. Why do we have to pay more for stuff for our people when the Chinese are getting a discount across the board? It doesn't make any sense to me. It'll never make sense to me. And this is long before the Biden administration, long before the Trump administration, long before the Obama or the Bush or any of these situations and administrations. This has been since the 1930s. What did we do in the 1930s that gave us the ability to just let the Chinese run all over us? And since then, back in the 80s and 90s, give them even more power over shipping and fees and tariffs. I don't understand it. We really needed money or help or the Chinese to import that much stuff. Turns out we probably did, because 70% of all de minimis or de minimis packages and shipping originate in China. Shocker, right? So there's your history lesson, your financial and economical education for this Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, when I'm recording this. The Chinese get away with everything and we don't, and it's caused Forever 21 to go out of business. Let's take a look at the story of Forever 21, and then I'll let you guys comment on the video and tell me what you think. All right, so this story from the NPR, and it's clear. Forever 21 is back on the auction block. Once a formidable fast fashion mall staple, Forever 21's parent company filed for bankruptcy protection late Sunday. That would have been the 16th. It plans to wind down its U.S. operations unless it can find a buyer for the whole business or some of its parts. The retailer has been a shell of its former self since it filed for bankruptcy back in 2019. I did that video. You can go check my channel for that. It survived then as a zombie brand with a fewer stores, but the chain has struggled to find life beyond the mall and to compete against fast-growing online rivals, including Shein and Temu that ship ultra-cheap goods from China. Well, we know that. We've been unable to find a sustainable path forward given competition from foreign fast fashion companies, as well as rising costs, economic challenges impacting our core customers, and evolving consumer trends, says Chief Financial Officer Brad Sell. That's actually his last name, Brad Sell. Imagine that. Sell specifically called out a tax loophole used by Shein and Temu to ship clothes and accessories straight to U.S. shoppers that enables them to avoid paying the import duties that Forever 21 and other retailers must pay when they ship goods into the bulk warehouses first. The U.S. government is now working to close that loophole. Of course, that's through Trump's tariffs, which we talked about on this channel. I'll link the video below if you want to find out more about how Trump is trying to put an end to the Chinese domination. Forever 21, founded by Korean immigrants and long run as a family business, made it big in the early 2000s by making designer fashion accessible. It brought runway styles to mall shoppers at rock bottom prices. I graduated in 2003. It was pretty popular in 2003 when I was graduating. I remember all the girls wearing like Forever 21 dresses to some of our spring dances and things like that. Its store footprint grew fast and far, and just as internet rivals began to eat its lunch. Internet wasn't around in 2003. We didn't have Facebook, MySpace, Instagram, Amazon, Temu, Shein. We had eBay, barely. It was only a few years old. eBay wasn't even a decade old. So yeah, they didn't have a lot of competition in the internet world. They dominated. Malls were where you went. That's where you went and got clothes. Big mall operators Simon Property Group and Brookfield Property Partners teamed up with a firm called Authentic Brands Group, which buys and resuscitates dying brands, such as Brooks Brothers and Nine West. But that was in 2019 when they were purchased by that group. Authentic Brands CEO later described his foray into once fast now ultra fashion with Forever 21 as his biggest mistake. Yeah, that was popular 20 years ago, but not now. In 2023, Forever 21's new owners tried another maneuver, signing a partnership with Shein, but losses continued, worsened by the high inflation that had shoppers tightening their clothing budgets. Court documents show Forever 21's liabilities are now 10 times bigger than its assets. In other words, if I have 100 grand in the bank and I owe people $1 million, that's what it amounts to. They might have 10 million in the bank and they owe 100 million to their creditors or loan companies. The company says its stores and websites will keep running while executives figure out the chain's future. Stores outside the U.S. are not part of the Chapter 11 filing, so they may be able to make it overseas. We'll have to wait and see. But that is the story on Forever 21 going bankrupt for the second time and most likely for the last time. What do you guys think about Temu and Shein, the competition, buying stuff here in the U.S. versus having it shipped in ultra cheap from China? Interested to hear your thoughts on that. Let me know. Also, the secondhand market. I guarantee the secondhand market destroyed Forever 21 because their stuff is not worth much on the secondhand market, if anything, and people like to buy stuff on the secondhand market. Recycling, doing all that stuff is super popular, of course, grew in the last 10, 15 years, and that definitely hurt their business model as well. Okay, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.